American history is colorful, and no period has drawn more interest than the Wild West. Gunfighters, lawmen, soldiers, American Indian warriors, and gamblers have been the subject of books, films, and popular culture. The Wild West period lasted about 40 years after the Civil War, being replaced by technology and industrial expansion. This nostalgia was not lost upon people from all over the world. Europeans were enamored with the Wild West. In fact, in World War II, German airmen called enemy aircraft Indianer, or Indians, out of respect because Westerns were the favorite genre of film entertainment. And such films from the silent black and white era through the current day have always had major appeal. However, one man managed to bring the Wild West to the world, broadening that interest and educating other cultures into that world, just as that world was dying out. And he and his traveling Wild West show were, in fact, for a time, the greatest show on earth. Who was William Frederick Cody? How did he begin his career in the Wild West? What influence did he have upon history? What is his legacy? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. William F. Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill, was born on February 26, 1846, in Scott County, Iowa. His father Isaac relocated the family from their LeClaire, Iowa farm on the Mississippi River to Kansas, where he operated a general store and trading post near the Kickapoo Indian Agency. During that time, Kansas was divided between those who opposed slavery and those who supported it. Being an abolitionist, Isaac was stabbed while delivering an anti-slavery speech in 1854, causing his eventual death in 1857. Young Bill started working for the Russell, Majors, and Waddell Freight Company at age 9 to support his family, where he honed his abilities and became well known as a skilled horseman. During a cattle drive in 1857, Cody killed a Native American during an attack on that cattle drive, which started his legend. He was celebrated as the youngest Indian fighter on the Great Plains. This was also when Cody met Wild Bill Hickok, who was also a wrangler on the drive and helped Cody in a deadly dispute with an older man who had a grievance against him. In 1860, at age 14, Cody began writing for the Pony Express. He had already been working as a dispatch writer, delivering messages between wagon trains for Russell, Majors, and Waddell, and had the assignment for a 45-mile ride between various posts. Cody became famous for his work as a writer due to some of his exploits, despite the dime store book writers and journalists of the day hoping to make money off of his story. His actual bravery is worth mentioning. One dramatic round trip of some 300 miles in Wyoming between Red Butte Station and Pacific Springs Station saw Cody complete not only his own ride, but also covered the missions of several missing relief riders. Cody managed to complete 22 continuous hours of riding without slave through hostile territory, changing horses 24 times. Cody added to his fame when he outran a group of mounted Sioux warriors to Three Crossing Station, Wyoming, where he found the station keeper had already been killed by the Sioux and the Pony Express horses stolen. Followed by the pursuing Sioux, he successfully evaded them and rode to the next station. Once he arrived there, he gathered a group of men and led an attack against the Indians who had camped, surprising them and recovering the stolen horses. On another mission, Cody was to deliver a large amount of cash, and knowing that he may be robbed as word spread quickly in those days when money was to be delivered, he placed the money under his saddle blanket and packed newspapers into the saddlebags. Cody's suspicions proved very accurate as bandits were waiting for him, and he was held at gunpoint. He tossed the official Pony Express saddlebags to the bandits, who luckily did not kill him, and they rode away quite content, with Cody getting out of there fast. The amazing part of his story is that, despite an accurate record of his express work, his name is not on the register of official Pony Express riders, because he was not paid by the government, he was paid by the company. When the Civil War broke out, Cody's first assignment was as a Union scout during the campaigns against the Kiowa and Comanche. That lasted until 1863, when he joined the 7th Kansas Cavalry, which saw action in Missouri and Tennessee. He was well regarded as a scout. After the war, he worked for the U.S. Army as a civilian scout and dispatch rider out of Fort Ellsworth in Kansas from 1866 to 1867, and afterward, due to his outstanding marksmanship, he hunted buffalo to feed construction crews on the Union Pacific Railroad from 1867 to 1868, during which time it is believed that he killed 4,280 head of bison, which gave him the nickname Champion Buffalo Killer. That was in 1868. He was also then hired by the U.S. Army 5th Cavalry as a scout and guide during the government's missions to eliminate Indian resistance to settlement of the land west of the Mississippi, which he did until 1876. His skills were in great demand due to his recall of the vast terrain he had already traversed, knowledge of Indian ways, courage, and endurance. In 1872, General Philip Sheridan arranged for Cody and Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer to guide Grand Duke Alexis of Russia on a hunting trip that had been set up by then U.S. President Ulysses S. Grant. Cody frequently took on dangerous assignments that others refused, and he was awarded the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions. On April 26, 1872, as scout for the 3rd Cavalry that was pursuing Indians who had stolen Army horses near Fort McPherson in Nebraska. However, that Medal of Honor was revoked in 1916 as part of the General Review to identify individuals who had received the award but had not technically been members of the military as officers or enlisted men. Scouts were classified as civilians, but the U.S. Army later restored the medal to Cody posthumously in 1989 due to his service with the Army as a scout. One of the reasons was due to his reputation, which was well chronicled. During his distinguished career, he is believed to have been involved in 16 fights against various Indian tribes and killed over 120 Native American hostiles. One of his more inglorious moments was when he was scalped by the Cheyenne warrior Yellow Hair on July 17, 1876 in Sioux County, Nebraska, which was in retaliation to the government's response to the massacre of George Armstrong Custer's command at the Battle of Little Bighorn earlier that year. Becoming known as Wild Bill in the press due to his exploits, newspaper reporters and dime novelists hungered for any mention of him in the newspapers or even street gossip, and they turned him into an American folk hero. Writers such as Ned Buntline, writing under the pen name of Easy C. Judson and Prentice Ingram, saw value in Cody and saw a chance to exploit his fame in dramatizing the West. In 1872, they convinced Cody to star in Buntline's drama, The Scout of the Prairie. Although he was not a trained actor, he managed to become a superb showman and ringmaster, launching what would become a 45-year career in show business. Cody performed his shows during the winter months and continued scouting for the Army during the warmer months, such as spring, summer, and fall, as well as escorting hunting parties and wagon trains to the west. Cody's legend grew as he wore his flamboyant theatrical clothes into battle and on missions, later donning the same outfit to recreate his attacks on stage. He definitely stood out. In 1883, Cody, with the help of producer and partner Nate Salisbury, organized his own Wild West show. This would become the most famous traveling outdoor entertainment business in history, with a massive cast numbering over 400 people. The audiences around the world loved the imagery, including fancy shooting, hard-riding cowboys, and Indians in mock fights. along with recreations of buffalo hunts, the capture of the Deadwood, South Dakota stagecoach, and so on. The show lasted 4 hours and included Indian war dances and an attack on the stagecoach, and his personal Pony Express ride was replicated. Among his stars were the already renowned rifle marksman Annie Oakley and the legendary Sioux chief Sitting Bull, who was his friend and joined the group in 1885. In 1887, his show was performed at Madison Square Garden, New York City, with a cast of about 100 Indians, Annie Oakley, other trick riders, ropers, and shooters, and such wild animals as buffalo, elk, bear, moose, and deer, as well as the ever-present hostile Indians. The show then played all over Europe and was a requested performance at Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee in 1887, launching the first European tour. So enthralled with the performance, Queen Victoria saw the show 3 times. Cody had expanded his entertainment venue to include Cossacks from the Russian steppes and vaqueros from Mexico and South America, adding to the spectacle, making him one of the most recognized and sought-after people and entertainers in the world. In 1891, the show arrived in Glasgow, Scotland, and one of the exhibits was the blood-stained ghost dance shirt taken from a Lakota Sioux at the Wounded Knee Massacre the year before, and it became part of a collection assembled by George Krager. Now, Krager was a Lakota interpreter for the Buffalo Bill Wild West show, and he offered his vast collection of Indian curiosities to the Glasgow Museum. See our video on Wounded Knee and the backstory on the return of the ghost dance shirt. In 1893 alone, around 3 million people attended the shows in Europe, which was billed as Buffalo Bill's Wild West and Congress of Rough Riders of the World. During a show in Germany, Crown Prince Wilhelm, later to become Kaiser Wilhelm II, was skeptical about the skills of said Annie Oakley, and he offered Annie Oakley an opportunity to prove her worth. Oakley, who was called Little Sure Shot, was challenged to shoot a cigarette out of Wilhelm's mouth. She clipped the ash off at 30 paces. She then entertained the crowd with her usual tricks, such as at 30 paces, she could split a playing card held edge on. She hit dimes tossed into the air, shot cigarettes from her husband's lips, and a playing card thrown into the air, shooting it full of holes before it ever touched the ground. A friendly rival named Pawnee Bill, who also had his own Wild West show, but it was a smaller venue, joined with Cody in 1908, expanding the entourage as well as the show's repertoire. Buffalo Bill continued to perform in his Wild West show until 1916, although at age 71 he often had to be helped onto his horse backstage due to arthritis and old injuries. While Buffalo Bill's exhibition remained extremely popular in the United States and abroad, Cody lost the fortune he had made due to very poor investments, including his purchase of an unproductive gold mine. His last public appearance occurred in November 1916. After Buffalo Bill Cody died on January 10, 1917, in Denver, Colorado, his many employees and followers kept the tradition and scope of his Wild West shows alive. And despite the world being at war, messages of condolence were sent by the same crowned heads of state, both Allied and Central Powers, who he had entertained and were themselves at that time locked in their own brutal war of attrition. There has never been a showman like him, and even today in several nations, Wild West shows are performed in his honor and memory. These shows are performed in several European countries, but it is very prominent in Germany. I, your humble correspondent, actually went to one. And they are very, very popular, especially in Munich, where approximately 40,000 practitioners, known as hobbyists, participate in these anachronistic recreations, but the response to this by actual Native Americans has been largely negative. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.